So today I would like to share a little bit about a very basic idea of tokenomics, but I think it's very important concept as in crypto because when I first started my career in the financial industry, one of the way that for the company to raise fund is to kind of like raising through different kind of equity financing. So so people might wonder whether so equity right now is becoming a kind of like a fundamental ecosystem or instruments for the financial industry. So without the equity, you can see most of the countries without proper equity stock market, the SME, the startup or the companies would be very, very difficult to source efficient funding for their company to grow. So if you think about that, company shares that available to price, available to trade, it's kind of like become very, very important components of all the financial ecosystem. But the question is the requirement right now and listing a stock in all major financial stock exchange, especially liquid financial stock exchange, is actually very, very high, and it involves cumbersome, a lot of really complex and costs involved for paying investment banking sponsors, lawyers, auditors, in order to make it available to be listed on the on stock exchange, traditional stock exchange. So people might wonder whether the stock market right now, or the equities financing right now, is actually defeating its purpose of helping company having SME to actually raising capital. So when I heard about blockchain or when I heard about token, I think it might carry some possibility that token might be a better form of equity. So you're not by holding a token, you might not have claims on the voting power of the company shares of this company, but essentially you're also part of the ecosystem. You're also part of the stakeholder of the projects of the company. So for example, like a Starbucks, right? Starbucks has its own shares, but as a customers or somebody who really likes or even love the culture of Starbucks, if Starbucks allowed to issue a Starbucks token, that might potentially got and other values for Starbucks token. And so the utility, I mean the usage of Starbucks tokens might be just a discount, or I can claim free Starbucks cup for up to $10 of usage. But the problem is the only added ingredients for Starbucks token is I got to be traded. The tradability is very, very important for Starbucks token, because right now, instead of becoming shareholders of Starbucks, that's I'm merely just looking for or evaluate my investment based on the expected probability of Starbucks. Right now, I hold some tokens that representing I really love the brand, and I'm an occasion regular customers of Starbucks by holding Starbucks token, and these tokens carry values because it is tradable. So if you think about that, as the company of Starbucks, I would like to have more Starbucks token holder than shareholders, right? Because shareholders only care about my profits. But our token holder of Starbucks actually, actually is most of them are our customers, or somebody agrees my values. So might be in that particular assumption, token might be a better form of values that attaches with the company compared with at equity, compared with shares, right? So that's why if token can be defined as a better form of equity that's purely only monitoring and care about the probability of the dividends payout for a certain company, token should worth even more than equity, shares, and stock in this assumption. So if you look even bigger picture, right? So for example, every company that do not raise funds through equity or stock market anymore. Every company, including Apple's, including Google's, everybody issue their own token. So the founding team, they do not need to sacrifice their voting power. They do not need to listen to cornerstone investor. They just carry on to fulfill their product, to looking for sustainability of making the product, corporate governance that eventually listen to the real stakeholder, which is most of them are their business partners, shareholders, not shareholders, or most of their customers, or all the ecosystem that build around Apple's or around Google's. For example, the supplier, for example, the second tier supplier, for example, for the resource ingredient. So everyone that had a stake on Apple shares, and they all really want Apple's to success. So in that case, they would rather to hold the tokens issued by Apple than company shares. So the reason right now that company shares are publicly tradable and so liquid, had a lot of valuation, which we are talking about price earning ratio around 10 times or more for some of the high growth company. It's just because of the government endorsed it. There's a regulation, proper regulation, and as it has been developed for so many years, and also we have a global standards of accounting principle that basically govern every company in the world. So every company have one border, or we say one group, to price, to standardize the entire company of this planet. So there's pros. Obviously, everyone have the same benchmark to evaluate, to give a company the valuation. But at the same time, this one single unified benchmark will never cannot fit for all kind of company, right? Projects or goal and ideas. So I think from the very beginning, I think tokens is always a complementary or even an extension of stock markets. And this kind of mini version of stock markets is especially very important to countries or jurisdictions that do not have a robust listed stock market. A lot of places, for example, like the entire ASEAN, right? We're talking about including Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, the entire Africa, right? Russia, the entire CIS countries. Even talk about a big part of Western Europe. The only liquid stock market in the world, we're talking about Japan, right? Hong Kong, Shanghai, Asia's, US, right? And also some area. So that's only a handful, maybe 10, handful with equity market, a global equity market that's available, that's make it available for companies in the world to raise funds properly. So it's not very common. If happen to be a startup in Ukraine, for me, it's very, very difficult to raise capital through traditional equity financing. That's kind of like become a big problem on the financial power versus different countries or even the world. So if you happen to have a great idea, great market, great revenue, you cannot raise capital relies on that. Without the capital, you cannot grow further. You cannot compete with the big boys. You cannot withstand for economical cycle. You cannot withstand for the pressure for some of the risks that you carry. You can raise funds, you can borrow, you can stake your equity or make it collateral and borrow even more capital from the bank. So you can imagine that there's only a handful or fraction of company in this world. Even we are keeping the same company revenue standard. There are only a handful of fractional company in this world that will carry the opportunities to raise funds publicly in major financial centers. If token can solve this problem, token, blockchain, and exchange ecosystem is managed to solve this problem by lower the barrier of raising capital. I think that would be one of the really true revolutionary steps on financial inclusion, and that is why we are fighting so hard on tokenomics and all the blockchain related ecosystem. Everything is about proper financial inclusion. All right, it's a little bit too far-fetched. Maybe I start talking about the basic idea of sharing some of the PowerPoints. So on the tokenomics. So this really short 15 minutes presentation is just about, I would say it's a little bit basic, but actually is contain a really fundamental area of the blockchain. So let's start with what's token. So I think token is a unit of value, right? Just a common stock. The only thing is the self-government business model, business nature. So every company is looking for a self-governed, self-sustainable business model. Self-sustainable business model meaning that without too much promotion, too much pushing too hard, your customer and your product will fit your demand naturally, and everything your product and your production of the demand will be completely fulfilled its supply side. So a self-government business model. It's empowered user to directly interact with my product. For example, the Starbucks coffee interact directly with the Starbucks token because whoever you manage to drink 10 cups, you're gonna earn 1 token. If you want to spend 1 token of Starbucks token, you can have the extra benefits. For example, a discount or something. For example, I can have free bagels, for example. So token needs to seamlessly interact with my direct product. So for example, if I happen to own, take the Starbucks example, if I happen to own a lot of Starbucks token as a supplier, as a coffee bean supplier of Starbucks, I'm potentially able to manage a discount, right? Because because Starbucks believe that as the biggest token holders in the ecosystem, we are on the same page on many areas, business goal. And so I can naturally assume that you will deliver the best quality of coffee beans to me. So the token, the value of token, is a stake token that within the ecosystem of Starbucks to the other stakeholders, including their coffee bean supplier, including their customers. So by holding the token value should be appreciated if Starbucks do well. So all the token holder will be benefited by reward, will benefit by the token price, will be benefited by the utility as carry inherit of the tokens. So you can see it's already very different than stock, than equities. That's why I always emphasize that token is a better form of equity because it's completely 100% attached to the product value and the company value directly, and it is completely have the similar reward and benefit that bind, that connected or the stakeholders within the ecosystem of the company build together. So that is something very different than stock market and stockholders. That normally a stockholder that might not necessarily care about your business. They only care about your revenue, your expected revenue. Even they don't even care. They care about your noise. They care about your price appreciation in the short term. They care about your liquidity of your stock. They care about your dividend payout or expected dividend payout for the upcoming years. They don't really care about how you make the product, what's the value, what's the reason behind why you make the product, what's the company value or your vision or your cultural values, because they don't really care. That's why the stockholders is not 100% attached with the company. So what is tokenomics? Tokenomics, I would say, as token and economic, attached with economic principle. So token can be used in different way, but at the same time, that economic principle might incentivize people to join, to remain, to contribute to the ecosystem by holding, by spending this kind of tokens regularly from time to time. For example, like Starbucks token, you encourage some behavior. You incentivize to encourage. You incentivize and encourage Starbucks to make better coffees. You incentivize and encourage Starbucks to buy even more coffee beans from me because you are selling more coffees. So because I'm one of your biggest token holders. So its utility and token is very essential to build the entire Starbucks related community and eventually drive the adoption of the token of the Starbucks token, for example. So you can see a proper design tokenomics is normally has a really positive cycle effect to drive the network, drive the project, drive the company forward and kick out and make sure the project of the token or the protocol in blockchain or the company to head to a positive direction and kick out bad apples at the same time. For example, like Bitcoin, right? So for example, like Bitcoin, the core purpose of people to use Bitcoin is we need to make sure Bitcoin is safe. We need to make sure Bitcoin is sound. We need to make sure Bitcoin do not have a double spending problem, and they need to be and Bitcoin protocol will be safe and sound. That when I try to transfer Bitcoin, somebody will receive Bitcoin within a certain period, and I will 100% deduct Bitcoin in equivalent amounts of value. I need to make sure that would happen in a decentralized manner. So which means that no central government ever existed, or no central counterparty were able to manage to change, to mediate, to interfere with the code, with the ecosystem and my transaction. That's the value of Bitcoin. In order to achieve that, we need to have different players in the ecosystem. So one of the key players is coin miners. So miners, they do something, right? In Bitcoin, it's basically solving a mathematical puzzle. The mathematical puzzle is just basically a ranking mechanism, a competition mechanism. So the winners will have the incentive. For example, I would say a very emphasized word, incentive, to protect the network by verifying the transaction and each historical transaction as well. So the miner will be rewarded by, right, the reward that you will win a block, and the block contains Bitcoin, freshly minted Bitcoin. So you can see as so the miners who engage with the Bitcoin ecosystem, they would secure the network by naturally established, by naturally solving the mathematical puzzle naturally to secure the Bitcoin network, and at the same time they will earn the block, which is Bitcoin, as a reward, and user will benefit by having a stable consensus. So the tokenomics in Bitcoin protocol is Bitcoin, right? Token is the Bitcoin, and tokenomics behind all this is a balance between miners, the balance between users in different and within different spectrum of their interests. So yeah, that already mentioned about one of the tokenomics design. I would say that's genius design is proof of work, right? By solving, yeah, we know there were a lot of Bitcoin miners. We know that there were lots of Bitcoin or block verifier that trying to compete against each others and for verifying the transaction, because there's a reward. So the mathematical puzzle will be dynamically adjust according to the hash power. So the more miner will be engaged in solving this mathematical puzzle, they will require more energy. They will be requiring more power, hashing power, to verify this transaction. So that hash power is also a balancing factor between the numbers and the miners, and also transaction speed. So then to be enjoy the natural inherent benefit between a verifiable transaction, the avoid of double spending problem, and at the same time the speed of the transaction. But also there's a problem, right? Because I think that's one of the very first protocol consensus that carried in Bitcoin, and it's very stable. It happened for so many years, and it's become so professional and institutionalized already. So right now, the biggest problem of proof of work mechanism or consensus right now is concentration of miners. So people may complain or suspiciously, so miners work together and take over the entire Bitcoin network and launch and 51% attack. Basically, it just means that with a cooperation of a big group of miners, they take over 51% of mining power. That will potentially change the value of Bitcoin or completely amend the transaction. Right now, obviously, economically, mathematically, might be they could happen, but at the same time, economically, right now, the Bitcoin protocol is working so well because the entire crypto and the entire Bitcoin ecosystem, including the miners, right now, they do not have the big enough incentive or motivation to destroy the Bitcoin network. So another problem of all the proof of work consensus might be an ongoing downward pressure, right? So if you happen to keep mining Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin, you would have, if you don't have a reason to store it, if you don't have the other intrinsic value that that the price will appreciate for an expected future, you will sell it, right? So you would expect for all the token with proof of work consensus, you would expect an ongoing sell-off pressure from miners, and that happened. That's actually happened when Bitcoin just firstly created. We're talking about a story in 2008, 2009. So back in the time, Bitcoin would be so volatile because the miners will somehow control the minting of the Bitcoin and dominate the market, in a very short time. So it trigger a super volatile Bitcoin movement, and that's why the derivative instrument has to be created to manage this risk. So right now, I think I would comment that that the mining ecosystem already becomes so competitive, and it's not that dominated by one or two super big miners, because everyone had its own competitive advantage. Some of the competitive advantage in terms of mining machine, and at the same time, some of the competitive advantage with this capital and users and how they manage risk of running a mining operation. Some of them has a unique advantage of deal with the electricity government. Some of them has a skill set on managing the cash flow and price volatility of the unexpected uncertainty of minted Bitcoin. So everyone has its own unique skill set. That's why the market of mining industry is relatively balanced, if you take my point of view. So another consensus ecosystem because it's proof of stake, right? So the differences between proof of stake and proof of work is just basically in proof of stake protocol consensus. You don't need to have solve the mathematical puzzle. The block will be created and validated by determined whoever holds the biggest token, right? So that obviously a problem. We come back later, but the idea is the validators is determined by the size of the stake token. So it looked like a voting system, and it looked like a voting ecosystem or voting system as in like the company shares or equity, right? So whoever has the majority shares, you should have the biggest voting power, and you should be able to control the protocol. So in order to solve this problem, so most of the what we call the rich forger problem. So most of the stake protocol that contains how you select block validator to pick the block. So right now, the most common way to select a block might be randomized block selections. So the validator will pick the nodes with a combination of stake value and also the hash rate, hash value. So whoever the lowest and also the highest stake, and we randomly pick it, and one of them will win the block. And also the con age, right? Basically means that if you happen to hold a duration, the longer time in terms of time of the total of certain stake token, you have the right to mint the block. So if you happen once the block is forked, that your con age, the duration of con age in this parameter will be reset to 0. There's a lot more right now, a lot of operation in this in consensus mechanism that's trying to avoid the rich fortune problem, that we don't want just one big stakeholder that can able to manage or completely control the entire protocol. So that's basically the comparison between proof of stake and proof of work. So I think I would highlight that. So, but right now, essentially, both of them work okay. Especially right now, Ethereum 2.0 that's moving towards to proof of stake protocol, and most of them they somehow achieve or perfectly achieve the idea of decentralizations, and also maintaining the balance of scalability and speed and security. So proof of stake is relatively new compared with proof of work, which already been carried on and happening no issue for 8 or 10 years. But also there's a lot of problem with proof of work because of the most notably will be the waste of energy and also it's not a very efficient, I would say. Imagine you have to everyone, the miners have to do a kind of computation every single block, for every single transaction, verify that, and you're using that your really expensive innovation hardware to solve a meaningless combination of numbers. So it's not particularly efficient. It can be polished. It can be improved. So but at the same time, proof of stake has its own uncertain problem right now. One of the problem might be nothing at stake. So people might complain that whoever has the biggest token doesn't really lose anything or lose nothing when they even behave badly. But if they succeed, but they stand to gain everything. For example, that if a fork which is contagious, which is contain argument, so every protocol has every different way of design, different ideas. So it's going to be a contagious fork. So two forks will be competing each others. So within a POS protocol, the big stakeholders, they just basically work everything, right? In theory, they can do it and just wait for somebody to win it. But very differently in the proof of work, because they have to invest on the electricity, they have to invest on the on hashing power, then also human power and resources to pick the one that should win, or they think, or the miner think that the idea or the suggestions or the protocol idea is eventually benefits to the protocol as a whole. So they has to pick one just by economical drives. So in order to solve the nothing at stake problem in POS, right now most of the idea related to punishment. So if you happen to look for one more chain, you gotta be punished. You gotta be some of the token gotta be taken away because you don't have idea. You behave relatively defined as you're not helpful. You're not expressing your idea to helping the protocol. So right now, punishment, post-flop punishment is one way of trying to solve this problem, nothing at stake problem. So again, finally, I would like to touch base a little bit of really hot consensus protocol. It's called liquidity mining. This also one of the category of tokenomics that I mentioned before. So you can see backtrack a little bit. There's all the tokenomics, all the intention of the tokenomics trying to help the network to either gain more user, or either building a secure and stable network, or either kick out the bad apples, right? So what liquidity mining does is to encourage a behavior like attracting users to stake token and borrow token within this lending protocol. So Compound is one of the first defined protocol that's trying to launch, adopt this liquidity mining consensus. So within this mechanism, it just means that the token COMP will be distributed according to the interest rate in USD value you pay. So the higher the interest that you're gonna charge or pay, you will be distributed a lot more token. So so that you can see a really weird behavior after this mechanism is launched is so everyone just stake USDT or all the other stablecoin in order to boost up the interest rate. And also there are a lot more borrowing just for the purpose of boosting up the interest rate. The annualized interest rate effectively within the compound protocol, I think back in time should be around 36% annual. So I think it's 10 times more expensive than traditional lending protocol. So you can imagine this kind of liquidity mining behavior or mechanism will somehow distort the core idea behind that building this lending protocol or DeFi lending borrowing protocol. The idea of lending, the origination of idea of DeFi lending protocol, borrowing protocol is somehow you can secure loan from anywhere in the world at a relatively better rates compared with traditional financial method without the bank. But right now it's not. So somehow the compound protocol right now, they recently changed the governance or their distribution system of COMP, but not entirely focused on the interest rate notional value payout anymore, but instead of other things. So I think they're changing. DeFi area is actually a relatively new area. So it's a frontier of finance, I would say. And I would say take a lot more experience, especially on tokenomics, in order finally achieve the ultimate purpose of DeFi. But right now, thanks to compound protocol, a lot more AUM or money has already been staked in the DeFi protocol. The valuation of DeFi protocol has already been doubled, most of them, and most of the investors will pay a lot more attention to all the DeFi protocol similar concept. So this area is very promising, exciting, but at the same time carry a lot of uncharted risk, in my opinion. All right, so thank you so much. I think that's happened to. Thank you so much for today. So shall we ever take some questions? Yeah. Anyone, you can, yeah, sure. Thanks for participating. You can ask any question anytime.
Hey, Lennix.
Hey, Bill.
You were talking about, for example, Starbucks issuing tokens. Has there been examples where they've issued different classes of tokens, like you would issue different shares, different classes of shares? And if so, is there any downsides to having lots of different classes within one company?
Yes. So our different class of shares right now is mostly divided into a variation of voting power. So so most commonly, I would say, are holding A shares or holding B shares, right? So in some of the stock exchange. So holding A shares are mostly founding team. The B shares will eligible for the distribution of the profit or the revenue or the valuation, but they do not have the equivalent similar amount of voting power as in A shares. The core idea behind all this is some of the company, especially tech company, are really I would say really founding team driven or management driven. So the entire company, in terms of how we drive forward the company strategies, would be determined by the founding team, especially. So they don't want, some of the companies do not want their voting power will be diluted by somebody who do not understand the core value or the core product from the outside investors obviously, right? So, but the investor also somehow just, I don't want to interfere your management or your company strategies. I just want to make money by either dividends or the profits or your prior appreciations. So A share and B share is one of the design that somehow serve the purpose, but it also contain a lot of flaws. For example, as an investor of the company, you have really little or almost none to affect the company strategies of the management. So that's a lot of problem, right? If the company is if the company or the management is heading to some of the downward spiral or death spiral of the company, that's really obvious. That do not agree with a lot of peers of the company, of the investor, from the client. So the investor should have the power to override this direction by management buyout, by different kind of method to take control back to the company. So every system has different kind of pros and cons, but you can see even the stock market right now recognize you need to have a different category and power of shares of equity than just purely a division or a representation of a percentage of company shares, because most of the time equity investor do not have the same interest with, especially to create this A/B shares model. But I think token can potentially solve all the problems.
Thank you.
Hi, Lennix. Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Lennix, hi, I have a question about, besides that tokens are on blockchain and, you know, all the benefits connected with blockchain, that it's traceable, that it's limited supply, and yeah, how different tokens can be from, let's say, loyalty points or airlines miles, as just some use cases, but yeah, what are other benefits of tokens besides?
Yeah, the key benefits, the key difference of loyalty points of all the gift card tokens is the tradability. So somehow, if Asian miles of your airline miles is tradable, I mean, you can exchange. Right now, you cannot even sell it, right? Right now, you can just sit over there. All the loyalty points, you can just sit over there and wait for an expiry. Somehow imagine your loyalty points as tradable. You can sell to somebody else. That would immediately change your perceptions of your loyalty points, of your Starbucks gift card, of your PS4 gift card, of your Asian miles, of your miles. Because that before, the only values is to use it. But right now, you can sell it with a price. So the price will be determined by so many factors right now. You can imagine that, you will immediately consider that, hey, if the company, for example, like increase the value, the utility of the loyalty points. For example, like for instance, before I can, for a Starbucks token, I can only use to buy coffees. But right now, you're talking about you can buy coffee beans, you can buy Starbucks card, you can give it to your grandchildren, and you can even, for example, you can talk to CEO of Starbucks occasionally. The increasing amounts of utility of the Starbucks token is a representations of tradable value immediately and reflected. So these kind of views, company views, and all the related features attached to the loyalty points of the token or tokenized loyalty points will be reflected on price. Because there's a price, there will be a trade, and the price discovery process will be driven by a completely open and transparent market mechanism. So people will trade and people will be speculating, people will hedge, we will make market on this. So it's completely changed how company will interact with your stakeholder, which is most of them your customers. So eventually, maybe one day, holding an airline miles will give you a free ticket because your values of the miles is actually skyrocket to even worth more than your airline ticket, because the airline company will have a lot of incentive to increase the utility and the benefits and the use case of their AMI's token. So that if the tokenomics will be naturally 100% that embedded in all the value system within the company, I think that is the great tools for user acquisition for all sort of business. They just don't recognize it yet.
Okay, how about tokens in games? For example, imagine that Steam has a token system, or some GOG games, will implement this token system. For example, right now, I know that in Japan, the loyalty points trading is prohibited. So you basically cannot buy and sell tokens. For example, imagine that you have such a token listed on your exchange, or and then Japanese user will buy it. How you will just comply with the Japanese regulation on this? Thank you.
Yeah, that's basically two questions. I will start with one. So yeah, naturally, I think gaming token, tokenized gaming tokens would be a very promising idea, right? So you make more money, you make some money by, for example, before the tokens happening, or the tokenomics discussion happening, there's one of the biggest game company called Blizzard is attempted to tokenize its in-game transaction already. That's called the Diablo. So Diablo, I don't forget, Diablo 3, right? Diablo 3, they actually had, when they first created, they actually has an in-game exchange. So when you play Diablo 3, you would somehow got the weapon, legendary weapon or something, right? So legendary weapon can trade with the other players. So there's an exchange view with that. So what the values, the denominations of this exchange or in-game weapons exchange is some Blizzard or Diablo tokens. But they carry one more benefit, is that a portion of Diablo token is able to cash out, which means you can sell back to US dollar, right? So the good thing about this is right now I can play Diablo for work as a job, because I just keep mining or fighting for a legendary weapon. I can potentially sell it as US dollar, right? I can make money, and also I can trade. So for some in-game legendary weapons, I can buy at a lower price, relatively lower price, and sell it at a higher price, and make some money. So I can trade, I can make markets. So the exchange will be so active right now until one day that is banned by regulation, by the US government, and also by regulators. And also somehow the time of playing this game, that the portion of the time for the player to play this game is actually decreasing, because all the players spending time to trading legendary weapons instead of playing the game itself. So somehow the token, the in-game token, if it is tradable and sellable, will defeat the purpose of the game. That's something that all the game tokenomics has to think about in depth. How you encourage behavior on how to maintain the balance between the utility of the token and also the fun part of the game. And also you have received sufficient feedback to improve the next patch of the game. Okay, the second question will be the regulation in Japan. So it's also related to regulation, right? So all the loyalty point right now in the world, no matter your airline miles or Starbucks token, is not able to trade for another government issued currency. So that's why right now most of the regulators is not accepting most of the government and most of the regulators do not accept any company to make it their loyalty point be tradable as money, because most of the regulations do not allow any company to print money, to issue money. So if you think loyalty point can be convertible back to JPY, the Japanese regulator will think you're printing money. So of course we have to be careful on that part of regulations.
Thank you, Lennix. One last question probably from me, if someone wants to ask first. Yeah, because I don't know if we are limited with time. But yeah, it's a relatively short question. In 2018 and 2019, everyone was speaking about security token offerings, STO. Yeah, some companies like Polymath or Heaven were super popular. Where they are now, and what are the reasons, and shall we expect them in this year or next year with the development of DeFi? Thank you.
So STO already has a lot of discussions, and I think the framework is read, but the basic. So the idea of STO is here. So a token attached of values that carry security nature. So it is the security, right? All right. So the concept is here. Even the regulations here. If you're a security, yes, you can. You just need to follow all the security related regulations. The problem STO right now is it doesn't have a global liquidity. So if you happen to issue an STO because it is a securities, it's not marketable globally like Bitcoin. We cannot list a security token without a proper brokerage license in that certain jurisdiction. For example, I would like to sell the STO to Japanese customer. I cannot list on any Japanese exchange. I need to acquire or get a Japanese brokerage license first and do it and distribute and sell or allow a customer or Japanese customer only to click the buy button on the platform. So if you want to distribute STO globally, you need to cooperate or somehow be a global broker, having broker license everywhere in the world. That's not that fancy. And also if you think STO is just an alternative of token or securities, that doesn't really make a difference. The beauty of STO, I think, is to tokenize something that is not that's not easy to be securitized in a traditional way. For example, like REITs, right? REITs. For example, like structured products. For example, like art pieces. For example, like something that a combination of asset-backed securities contain many different kind of cash flow that traditionally is very difficult to trade, to sell, except for retails, and also maybe finally a fractional shares. So some of the company like Google's or Apple's, they have a lot of requirements. So if you tokenize Apple shares or Google shares or Amazon shares, you can buy 0.1 shares or 0.001 shares with blockchain technologies. So that part, I think would be a possible explorations of STO or whoever want to venture in STO. Of course, the cost of regulations, the difficult, the complexity of job is not very easy. But if you happen to be able to manage a tokenize your Apple shares, you're able to make it retail friendly by making it fractional, and so that everyone can buy it. Everyone in the world can buy it. But you need to solve the brokerage problem too.
Thank you very much, Lennix.
Hello, Lennix. Can I ask?
Hello. Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I have a short question. I think I live in Ukraine, and there is not a lot of use cases of crypto in Ukraine. How I know, it's only well-known creators of wallet like Trust Wallet or Kuna Exchange, maybe you heard. But how do you think which spheres of business can be interested in crypto first in country where it's not spread for now?
Yeah, I know Kuna. I know Trust Wallet too. I've been there. So in Ukraine example, right? So one of the biggest use case would be trade settlement, especially international trade settlement, right? So in Ukraine example, you import quite a lot of goods elsewhere in the world, and it's very difficult to transfer money outside across the border within your banking system, and also settle your payment internationally. So many of the suppliers within Ukraine actually settle your trade, settle your goods, and buy or sell service via crypto, and settle first, and then you will transfer your fiat currency back to the supplier. So one way to do it is a trade settlement. Another way to do it is I think right now is exploring a way of using token as a fundraising mechanism within small business in Ukraine. For example, Ukraine got the greatest restaurant in the world, right? I know that, and also the restaurant chain is able to manage industrial-wide token, and that bind the supplier and the customers and all the restaurant chain all together. Then everyone has the same value, and everyone can use as a payment or can earn a discount by spending this restaurant on this particular restaurant. And also you can sell it, you can list it at Kuna, you can sell it to everyone else. So eventually you can make it your intra-industrial tokenomics just within the restaurant.
Thank you for your answer.
Another quick one from me. I'm trying to think out the box here slightly. One of the assumptions you made earlier with tokens was that the people who hold the tokens may not necessarily care as much about the profits and may care about the values of the company. But could you foresee a future maybe where people try and exploit that, hold the token, loan that token out to earn interest from it, and they themselves don't really care what happens because the token holds its value, and they're just there to pick up the interest from loaning out? Is that a downside to that?
Yeah, so when the token is tradable, right? Tradables when it's market in an open and free and transparent market, when there's a value, you need certain behavior for liquidity anyway. So, so token. I would say token. The holder of it. So you need to be reminded that the distribution of the token mechanism normally only be distributed to whoever has a benefits to the company, to the project. For example, the customer. For example, the supplier with the cheapest, delivering the best good to me. For example, in the network perspective, for example, we're verifying validators, right? They are the one who care about the benefits, and the ecosystem of the company. And that token is also tradable. In order to be tradable, they will be attracting all the time, like stock or like all the financial instrument, they will attract speculators. And you need that too. So even the speculators that just looking for price appreciations or speculation on the price, and even I just lend it out to somebody else and earn an interest as part of speculative behavior. That's actually benefit to the liquidity of the token if you're taking on a bigger picture, on a broader term of the pictures. So whoever really want to use, spend, store this token would able to manage to buy or sell in a big size in any time, in any market, in the regulated exchanges, because the market has a certain numbers of speculators and liquidity providers and hedges. So a robust market design, I would say, that's always contain this group of person. I'm not talking about just stock. I'm not talking about that token, everything, including your houses, right? You need a speculators in your real estate market because these guys will trade a lot, turnover will trade a lot. So they always somehow be the seller of you when you're a buyer, and somehow be the buyer of you when you're a seller. So the speculators is actually a very important component of all the market design, and they took the risk too. They took the risk by sacrificing their capital in terms of opportunity cost, and also took the risk for potential price appreciation. For the market perspective, because there's a lot of speculators, so there will be liquidity. There will be liquidity to serve the real buyer and seller within the market. So it's not defeating the purpose. The absence of speculators would not be benefit to the liquidity for anything, for all the underlyings.
Fair enough, thank you.
Hi, Lennix. I am living in Barcelona, Spain.
Hi, your bar reopened.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I believe that the token value unit completely revolutionates the digital world as we know it until it appears. And besides the fact that the company can create its, you say, self-governance with its stakeholders and interact with other products, we are saying that it also helps in the economic model for example, small firms and food exchange to help the different countries or different villas, and knowledge owes as an intangible token where society also contributes to a self-regulates value praise. And its functionality is very versatile. Solutions are even begin give to use the token as financial, for example, football players, or people's careers or incentive value elements. In which sectors do you think that it can be really a revolution with a token economy? For example, sports or energy for system economic circular? And how far can we see develop of this unit of value?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's not a very easy question too, because right now, first we should logically thinking, token is a new form or better form of equities, because we think that we're tied to all the stakeholders, or it would able to make all the intrinsic value to be tradable, all happen. So. Some of the area that definitely worth interesting to take a look. For example, right now, recently, IPFS, which is a storage token. So it basically means that your some of the resources, which including your storage on your phone, on your computer, of your network drive is spare. I don't use it. I can sell it with blockchain, because some of the you have to. If I want to take steps, right, to develop these blockchain technologies or blockchain tokenomics, I have to think about some of the really easy way to start with, some of the really easy industry to start with. The easiest way to start with is to spare resources. Some of the resources that just sit right over there, and for us to tokenize and sell it. Very much like Airbnb business model. Some of the room I don't use it. Why not make a marketplace? Sell it to somebody who really needed that in time. So IPFS, which is all the resource-driven protocol, that's something that's definitely worth taking care of. First, it's digital, so you can so everyone can keep track how much network drive of resources that you do not currently using, and you're currently able to sell it, and your record and the transaction is able to be secure and managed and trade by blockchain, right? Because the purpose of the blockchain is a trade settlement system. It's record transaction. So that's very easy to start with, and so that the people are very excited to be resource-driven protocol. Another way, if we take it further, would be network traffic, right? For example, rather than speaking to you, my phone network is spare. I don't need to use that right now. Maybe some tourists in Hong Kong really want to have a free network or pay a really small chunk of money to have a network right now. They can just buy my traffic within my mobile phone, so they can use it right now. These kind of micro transactions normally cannot be handled by any bank or Visa or Master or all the payment medium. It's got to be tokenized and got to be settled and traded on blockchain, because the benefit of blockchain, the benefit of token is these cost effectiveness. I can sell a really, really tiny amounts of network with really, really tiny transactions with blockchain. Because blockchain is a self-sustainable system, we don't need a lot of cost to maintain it. So that's why, in order to take it further, you can think all of your time, all of your value that embedded onto the network, for example, my clicks, my advertisement, my efforts, my view, my personal data, everything is right now can be tradable. If you talk about integration of 5G, my time, my efforts, my GPS, my location, everything right now is able to be tradable because all the values, all the unspent resources or unspent data or useless data that I inherently think is already digitalized. When something got digitalized, you can trade because blockchain is just perfectly designed system for trade with really, really low cost. So if you think about that, if there's something that already be digitalized and people would need that, then and that if somebody would need it, and there will be demand and there will be supply and there will be change. And if there's a trading, you need to think about trading system. And the best trading system right now is blockchain-based trading system because it's cross-border, it's global, and it's super cheap.
Thank you very much.
So maybe let's wrap up for today. Thank you so much for joining this Beacon program. I hope that we can. I think it's a very unique opportunities that we can reach each other's. It is a special moment, and it's not a particular. It's a rare moment that somehow we can spend the time to discuss about the future of blockchain and how we build OKEx, and also you can learn about why there's a reason for you to really committed in this exciting industry. I've been talking to so many traditional banking financial experts that the reason that they're so fed up with the current economy right now because the old system is not working fine. The old system is perfectly designed, it's well thought, but after so many years of development, some of the element is not working anymore. It's not pushing, and it's also defeating the original purpose of design. So that's why a blockchain-based economy, ecosystem, financial industry, or tokenomics design, or company design, or organization structure, I would say, got to be very exciting because it might be a very new form that how we interact with each people, how we interact with the company, how we interact with our customers, and blockchain and tokenomics will have the potential to completely change the picture of this. So I'm hoping everyone here would be can be really positively enthusiastic about this development of blockchain and find your spot, find your ecosystem, and deliver your value, committed your talent into this space. I'm really looking forward to meet again. Thank you so much.